And the highest concentration of DHA is actually found in the retinas of our eyes at 35%.
Uh-huh.
So as we can imagine, DHA is not just important to the structure of the cells, but critical during the period of pregnancy, early childhood, or even as we're trying to support things like memory,
Right.
attention, learning, and focus. Because any sort of oxidation is causing rancidity to these oils, and we know that rancid fats can cause us more harm than good. And so what we do is we actually introduce nitrogen throughout our manufacturing. Nitrogen's a lot heavier than oxygen, and so that's what keeps oxygen away from the environment. We
Yeah.
know fatty acids, they're very volatile, and things like oxygen, heat, or light can really damage them. And so how well they are protected throughout manufacturing is critical.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Healthy Habit Podcast, episode number 102, with yours truly here, Nicole Gitlin, representing Nordic Naturals here today. Nicole's passion for teaching others about health and wellness was inspired by her own health journey, a personal mission which drove her to become a certified holistic health practitioner, certified herbalist, and certified nutrition consultant. As a skilled bilingual educator, Nicole strives to deliver complex science in an easy to understand and retainable way to retailers and consumers, both domestically and internationally. In her leisure time, Nicole loves to garden, cook, and explore the outdoors. And I just found out before we went live here today, Nicole's been to Sedona and Arizona multiple times and explored the desert. And I'm excited to have Nicole back on here on the Healthy Habit Podcast. How are we doing, Nicole?
Hi, I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me back on the show. It's an honor to be back.
I'm excited to have you back here in the triple digits, episode number 102.
All right.
So let's start things off talking, help our listeners understand the relevance of today's topic. Start by describing to us what an omega-3 fat is exactly. Why are they essential to our health as well? It's kind of like a two-part question.
Mhm.
Everyone's heard of them by now, or at least most people in the natural health world have heard of omega-3s. What is this exactly?
Absolutely. I mean, you're totally right about that. Omega-3 fatty acids are one of those nutrients that, although a lot of consumers are quite aware about omega-3 fats, there's still a little bit of a between the importance of omega-3 fatty acids across lifelong health.
Yeah.
Omega-3s are essential fats that are critical to every structure and function, the cell membranes across every life stage. So whether we may be referencing a brain cell, a heart cell, or a liver cell, EPA and DHA support its structure and its function. And that's how EPA and DHA is able to support overall health across lifelong health.
Wow. Yeah, so it's so versatile. We need it for many different body systems. It's not just for the brain or just the heart. We need it pretty much in every cell, right? Very, very important.
That is
So
correct.
amazing. And then quickly differentiate that between an omega-6, which we need as well, by the way, right? Maybe highlight that. But just the problem is the ratios are all out of whack, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. And thank you for bringing that up because omega-6 fats are also essentially deemed essential nutrients. However, as you noted, what's important to note is that they play opposing roles within the cells. And that's why we want to have a healthy ratio between both omega-3s and omega-6s, basically on a day-to-day basis across lifelong health, so
Yeah.
that we can have a healthy ratio at a cellular level. The big problem here, as many of us are aware, omega-6s are inundated in the standard Western diet. And so we easily overconsume those omega-6 fats, while
Yeah.
we don't really get enough of that direct EPA and DHA that we get from fatty fish, algae, or supplementation, which is quite hard to get if it doesn't land in the common American household plate, especially as often as it should.
Got it. And then what would be some of those common food sources? Salmon is a popular one, but how else can we satisfy our omega-3s with food from the grocery store?
Yeah, that's a great question because through our diet, we can easily get a good amount of EPA and DHA, whether it be, as you mentioned, salmon, anchovy, sardines, mackerel, even cod.
Okay.
It's quite easy to elevate that dose of EPA and DHA, especially about 2.5 cans of sardines or anchovies can get you around 2,000 milligrams of omega-3s, or even just about 3.5 ounces of salmon, which I know is a lot easier to the majority of consumers, can get you quite a decent dose of omega-3s.
I've been eating a lot of cod, a lot of whitefish lately. That's a really good to know that it's in the cod as well, even though it's a leaner whitefish, but it's still found in there as well. So good. That's a good list. That's going to help a lot of people. Thanks for clarifying that. So then
Absolutely.
you mentioned EPA, DHA. Do we need both? How are they different? Those two.
Yes. So they are both synergistic fats that are essential to, as I mentioned, the support of structure and function to every cell in the body. But there is a way that we can differentiate both. And kind of
Yeah.
an easy way for us to do that is thinking about DHA as a neck up fat. When we're thinking neck up, we're thinking the structure. It's the building blocks to the brain, the eyes, and the central nervous system. The brain alone is made up of about 60% fat, and on average, about 20 to 25% of that alone should
Yeah.
be DHA. And the highest concentration of DHA is actually found in the retinas of our eyes at 35%.
Uh-huh.
So, as we can imagine, DHA is not just important to the structure of the cells, but critical during the period of pregnancy, early childhood, or even as we're trying to support things like memory,
Right.
attention, learning, and focus. And of course, on the other hand, like you mentioned, EPA, while synergistic effect between both,
Yes.
EPA is more of a neck down fat. So when you're thinking neck down, you're thinking more of the functionality. So the
Oh, okay.
function to your cells and your organ systems. Primarily, one of the things that we see with EPA is support to our cardiovascular system, our immune system function, and something really important here as well is a positive effect on healthy mood. And so, of course, while both have synergistic effects, and typically when we go look at an omega-3 product in a store, we'll see both EPA and DHA.
Yeah.
Typically, there'll just be a higher dominance of one or the other. And then that's how we can help a customer best select the right product for them, depending if they're looking for more support for brain, eyes, or nervous system. Or maybe they are looking for support for heart health or immune system function. And
Yes.
that's an easy way where we can distinguish EPA and DHA.
Right. And we're recording this towards the end of February, and it's Heart Month.
Mhm.
It's National Heart Cardiovascular Prevention Month here in the United States, second month of the year. Dive in a little bit more then. I want to hear specifically expand on how these omega 3s support heart health exactly. Like what's going on? Is it the blood vessels in the blood itself, the heart muscle itself? Let's hear about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great thing to dive into, especially as I was referencing with EPA.
Yeah.
EPA specifically, when we look at the research, is backed by decades of research supporting how EPA, especially as you mentioned, cholesterol support, healthy reduction in triglyceride levels,
Yeah.
blood pressure regulation, a lot of these typical important cardiovascular risk factors that we need to look at. And EPA is one of those nutrients that helps to support healthy blood pressure regulation, triglyceride levels, and cholesterol levels as well. And so, one of the things that we can do throughout EPA and DHA, especially, is understanding not just, as you mentioned, the support for healthy blood vessel function as well, and really supporting the overall support to our cardiovascular health.
Amazing. Great answer there. What is the, you mentioned blood pressure, so let's take a little extra exit there. What does the science show regarding omega 3s and supporting healthy blood pressure triglycerides? Is it pretty clear? Like it actually helps lower sustainably people's blood pressure and it stays lower?
Yeah, that's a great one to dive into, especially because as we do look at the meta-analyses that have been published within recent years, it actually does reveal quite a strong evidence for omega-3s positively impacting blood pressure. And there's actually one particular study that was published in the American Journal of Hypertension that particularly found that consuming omega-3 supplements may actually be as effective, if not more effective, than lifestyle changes such as reducing sodium, increasing exercise, in reducing blood pressure, which
Yeah.
is a huge thing to note, especially when those are the typical things we see in allowing us to reduce healthy blood pressure. But
Uh-huh.
one of the things that the study also indicated, which I thought was really important, was that it needed at least 2,000 milligrams or more dose-wise of combined EPA and DHA to actually reduce the diastolic blood pressure in addition to the systolic blood pressure. And this is a really important one for us to note because though it's been a little bit of time since those new guideline regulations have changed, but having gone from 140 over 90 to 130 over 80, it really allows us to focus on getting these blood pressure numbers regulated early on to prevent any issues happening down the line.
Right. And again, the products that we're going to highlight here in a moment, they help get that ratio back into balance with those omega 3s and 6s. Most patients I talk with here, they're not eating very much seafood, and it's mostly, and believe it or not, nuts and seeds are really high in omega 6s, and people are just slamming them, for lack of a better word. They're eating a lot of them by the handful of these nuts and seeds, which are tons of omega 6s. And that's why in nature they're in shells. Isn't that interesting? It's something I educate patients on a lot. When's the last time you used a nut cracker, Nicole, to crack open a nut and take the thing, right? It's just, right? They've shelled them for us.
I
You want
honestly
to,
cannot even imagine the last time I did that. And you're actually so spot on about that because I just did a really interesting understanding about the composition between nuts and the composition of omega 6s to 3s.
wild,
1
right?
ounce of peanut butter,
Yep,
4,400 milligrams of omega 6s,
right.
just about 3 milligrams of omega 3s. So,
Wow.
so easy to
Say that
overdo
again.
it.
Let's highlight that one more time for me.
About 1 ounce of peanut butter provides 4,400 milligrams of omega 6s
Uh-huh.
to just about 3 milligrams of omega 3s.
Wow.
So it's so easy for us to overdo it on our 6s, and we may not be consuming either fatty fish, algae, or supplementation as well, which are the perfect ways that we can help increase the amount of EPA and DHA in our diet.
Yes, and here's that visual of what Nicole was just saying there. You can see peanuts. Well, peanuts aren't on this one, but you're absolutely right. I remember looking at peanuts. You can see here the 6-to-3 ratios, how walnuts are pretty close if you look down there, the 4-to-1 at the
That's
bottom of the
right.
screen. But look at almonds, for example. Almonds are a really popular one. What are we showing you here, folks? That way too many omega 6s compared to the 3s here, left to right. It should be 1-to-1 or 4-to-1 max, maybe 3-to-1 in that range, 1 to 4-to-1, and you can see 2,000. So it's just completely out of proportion with
Right.
barely any mackerel and sardines and the salmon and all that. So that's an important highlight there, Nicole. Thanks for that. Um,
Absolutely.
what would be your standout? People are listening to us as they're shopping through Healthy Habit right now. They're going through the aisles. What's a good starter point for someone in general? They want to start protecting their heart health. They have relatives who have had a heart attack or stroke, or their father has massively high blood pressure, and they want to start, getting prevention going here. What's a good start here from Nordic Naturals?
Yeah, I think the perfect way for us to get started in this omega-3 journey is to start with an ultimate omega. This is
Okay.
our perfect go-to product. It's not only our most popular product, but the most recommended by doctors worldwide as well. And the reason why I love this product is that it provides the ideal dose that's actually recommended by the American Heart Association
Uh-huh.
for any individual that they themselves or have a family history of any heart disorders. It hits over that 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA. So it's a really great product to start getting a decent amount of EPA and DHA in the diet. However, if we are one of those individuals that don't get enough fatty fish in the diet, or we really are trying to change a health outcome, we might want to look at that ultimate omega 2x that provides just a little bit over that 2,000 milligram mark. So we can make sure we can get that healthy ratio back in balance, as you were referencing, trying to get that ratio as close to possible.
Absolutely. We have the Ultimate Omega 2X. We even have an Ultimate Omega with CoQ10 in there. And then we have just the original Ultimate Omega, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. So we do have quite a nice reference of products, and we have omega-3, ultimate omega, or ultimate 2X, just depending on the amount of dose that's needed by the particular consumer. All that range is dependent on whether you may or not consume fatty fish in the diet or trying to just reach a higher dose in fewer servings. And then, of course, as you mentioned, when we are referencing products such as Ultimate Omega and CoQ10, it's an incredible potency to be able to not just have omega-3 fatty acids, but alongside synergistic nutrients like CoQ10
Yeah.
that also help to support cardiovascular function. And so getting that effect of both nutrients really is an ideal product for a lot of customers that can just buy one product and have two nutrients combined.
Incredible. And here I pulled up for the screen share here for the YouTube viewers. But if you're listening on audio, just head over to nordic.com, Nordic.com, and you can just type in Ultimate Omega in the search bar up here at the top right of the page. Here's the Ultimate Omega. As Nicole was mentioning, this is recommended by doctors globally, all across the world. They're using this in their clinical practice. The number one omega-3 in the US, one of the top sellers in the whole country. They've won 10 plus awards. Can you highlight that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually on the website only says over 10 plus awards for that particular
Yeah.
SKU, but we've actually been awarded over 100 different
Wow.
awards in the industry. Everything from our innovation to our production to even the taste of our formulation. So we are very proud that we have over 100 awards in the industry and
Yeah.
over 10 that are dedicated particularly to our Ultimate Omega, which is really our highly featured SKU.
So we don't have to worry about rancidity when it comes to Nordic Naturals fish oil. A lot of people, they don't like fish oils because of that. It gets really rancid and degraded, and then they get that fishy burp that comes up. And, so differentiate Nordic Naturals from these other types of companies that might have not good quality fish oil.
Yeah, I would love to, because that's a great point. I think, unfortunately, a lot of individuals have had experienced either fishy burps or just a negative experience when taking an omega-3 product.
Yeah.
But the actual palatability, the freshness to an oil is of utmost importance. And that's why we here at Nordic Naturals have an oxygen-free patented process to make sure that our oils are not oxidized. Because any sort of oxidation is causing rancidity to these oils, and we know that rancid fats can cause us more harm than good. And so what we do is we actually introduce nitrogen throughout our manufacturing. Nitrogen's a lot heavier than oxygen, and so that's what keeps oxygen away from the environment. We
Yeah.
know fatty acids, they're very volatile, and things like oxygen, heat, or light can really damage them. And so how well they are protected throughout manufacturing is critical. And
Right.
that's why we are very proud to have our oxygen-free patented process to be able to offer products that are fresh, pure, and exceptionally palatable, which is of utmost importance.
Amazing. That was great. I couldn't have said it better myself right there. Again, Ultimate Omega, multiple award, over 100 different awards this company's received over the years when it comes to fish oil. So thanks again for highlighting that. The Ultimate Omega, that's how we got on the topic. I asked Nicole, what's potentially a good starting point for somebody that wants to start protecting their heart health? And then when would they lean towards maybe the CoQ10 option, the Ultimate Omega with the CoQ10 added in?
Yeah, I think the addition of the CoQ10 would be a great addition for any individual, of course, looking at supporting cardiovascular health
Yeah.
specifically. But anyone that's really trying to provide more of the energy, the ATP, pretty much supporting the energy currency that's directed to the cells. And that's
Uh-huh.
exactly what CoQ10 is. And the highest concentration is actually found in the heart. It's around many organs in the body, but the highest concentration is in the heart. And so being able to provide that energy directly to the heart, I would say it's a great nutrient choice for any individual that's either an athlete or works out a lot, or any individual over the age of 40, because we're really trying to provide one of our most important organs with the energy production that's needed to
Yeah.
require that constant supply of energy directly to the heart.
Interesting. And maybe especially if someone's on a statin medication, you want to highlight that?
Absolutely, yeah. Especially this is a great nutrient to consume in addition because CoQ10 is the strongest fat-soluble antioxidant. It really plays quite a unique role in protecting the heart from oxidative damage of things like LDL cholesterol,
Right.
which we know things are risk factors of cardiovascular conditions. So in addition to that, it's promoting to support healthy blood vessels. And so, especially individuals who are on these types of medications, we always want to have them check in with their practitioner to check on dose-wise and safety in consumption of omega-3s and CoQ10, but it's a great nutrient in addition to support cardiovascular function.
Fascinating. Nordic even has some standalone CoQ10s in capsule version with the ubiquinol. We even have a gummy version, which we may or may not carry at Healthy Habit right this second, but we can special order for you. Or you just go to Nordic.com. You can order from their website too. And then, of course, the Ultimate Omega, which has the CoQ10 added in. So those are some good options that people should be aware of. And I wanted to hear, so you introduced a good starting point, which would be the Ultimate Omega. What other products might someone be interested of maybe adding to the Ultimate Omega? It could be maybe the CoQ10 gummies. What other Nordic Naturals products can help us really start addressing that heart health?
Of course, yeah. Aside of the standalone products that you mentioned, the other product that I would particularly highlight here is our cholesterol support.
Okay.
This is a really unique combination of synergistic nutrients, two of which we've already discussed. Of course, omega-3 fatty acids
Yeah.
with that higher dominance of EPA over DHA. Then it's also going to contain 1,800 milligrams of red yeast rice, as well as 30 milligrams of CoQ10. So really a unique synergistic effect between those three nutrients.
Right.
But we've not really talked about red yeast rice in comparison to omega-3s and CoQ10. So just a really quick highlight that red yeast rice is a red pigmented yeast that's grown
Uh-huh.
on rice, and it's been shown to support things like healthy blood lipid and cholesterol levels. So it's a really great addition in this formula to also support healthy blood vessel function.
Incredible. And I'm going to pull this one up right here. This is the cholesterol support formula by Nordic Naturals, an omega blend, the red yeast rice. There's CoQ10 in there as well. Thanks for highlighting that. So especially if you did your blood panels and that lipid panel is struggling, right? The LDL's through the roof. VLDL. You don't want the VLDL to go up, by the way. That's the last one you want to go up. That's the worst offender, really, of heart problems.
Mhm.
So in this case, we have 1,800 milligrams red yeast rice. Tell us a bit more about red yeast rice and what it's doing exactly. I know it's popular in Japanese research.
Yeah, it's actually something that's becoming quite popular because, especially as even the name suggests, in supporting things like cholesterol levels, and like you mentioned, we want to make sure we keep those LDL and the VLDL really low, especially in comparison to the red yeast rice specifically in this formula supports the healthy blood vessel function and is allowing basically to create a healthy blood lipid panel with overall the cholesterol levels. And so that's the particular mechanism of action of the red yeast rice within this formulation. And
Yeah.
that's why there's a lot of research and evidence that's actually showing its importance, not just for cardiovascular function, but particularly for blood vessel function.
Uh-huh. And if you've been looking for the old formula, they have a new label now. It has the cholesterol support on it. The old one used to say Omega LDL. Is that right, Nicole?
That is correct. So, of course, aside of our label change, this formula also received a name change. So, omega LDL is now known as cholesterol support.
Nice. There we go. Which is good. It's more of an umbrella term instead of just focusing on that LDL, right?
Correct. Yeah, it should be very targeted, especially as you are shopping for these products. You know exactly what you're looking for, and the name should be the perfect call out.
And we'll finish off highlighting the importance of the triglyceride formula.
Yes.
Or, yeah, I mean, tell us about your thoughts on the triglycerides, whether or not there is just a standalone formula that tackles those specifically. And we'll finish off on that note. Tell us about your thoughts on the triglycerides.
Absolutely. And triglyceride form, correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Perfect. I would be so happy to. And I'm glad you brought that forward because when we're referencing triglyceride form, especially in reference to fish oil products, triglyceride form is giving your body the fats in the way that it's used to recognizing it. On average, about 97 to 98% of our dietary fat is in the natural triglyceride form.
Mm.
On average, only about 2 to 3% is cholesterol and phospholipids. So typically speaking is how our pancreatic lipase can recognize what we've consumed and break down and assimilate those nutrients.
Yes.
EPA and DHA being a fat, you want it to be in its natural form as we would find it in nature. And so when we are thinking about omega-3s as a supplement, when we're thinking about products that have been concentrated, such as Ultimate Omega, Ultimate 2X, or
Uh-huh.
any other product that really has a high dose of omega-3s, we want to make sure that it's still in the superior triglyceride form so
Got it.
we can support the body with giving them the fats in the way that it's used to recognizing them. And that's why all of our products are proudly in the superior triglyceride form
Got it.
to support our cells.
That's a good clarification there. So specifically, the different fish oil products manufacturers, they behind the scenes, they're it could be the totally wrong makeup of the fat that you're taking in, right? And that can wreak havoc, and it actually can make that omega-6 excess even worse, right? Can further that inflammation response.
Correct, because the absorption, when we really are looking mostly at the data and looking at the re-esterified triglycerides in comparison to the synthetic ethyl ester, we do see an average of a 70% more absorbable in the re-esterified triglycerides in comparison to the synthetic ethyl esters. And so, yeah, when we're talking about absorption, how we're getting those nutrients to their end destination, we're getting a 70% more in absorption in comparison to the synthetic form that we can commonly find in some concentrated products. And that's why it's very important to consume any nutrient in the form that it's meant to be in.
Right. Well, that's a perfect place to end it right there, Nicole. I appreciate you coming on. It's our first time talking to you here in Nordic, really. First time talking to you in 2024. So
Yes.
I hope to have you on again soon, and thanks again.
Thank you so very much. It's an honor to be here. And thank you so much for the continued support of Nordic Naturals.